What if the real advantage in life wasn't about being louder, faster, or more popular, but about being wiser, quieter, and more grounded? In a world constantly pulling you in 100 directions, filled with noise, conflict, and pressure, how do you stay rooted in clarity and power when everything tries to shake you? This video invites you into the enduring strength of Stoic philosophy. Not through empty affirmations, but through timeless insights practiced by those who faced war, exile, betrayal, and uncertainty, and still chose composure over chaos. We'll walk through 9 rare and essential Stoic keys that can quietly reshape how you navigate people, pressure, and pain. These aren't just lessons. They are tools. Silent strategies for mastering life from the inside out. So take a breath. Let yourself be fully here. And if any part of this journey resonates with you, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments with the words, "Keep it up." Consider subscribing to stay connected to more paths of wisdom. Let's begin. 1. Don't talk about challenges. Have you ever noticed how talking about your problems sometimes makes them feel even heavier? You replay the story, you feed the frustration, and suddenly the obstacle seems larger than life. The Stoics had a different approach, one that begins not with expression but with elevation. Instead of narrating every burden, they taught us to become the person who carries it with dignity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." These weren't poetic words for him, they were survival tools. He faced betrayal, illness, war, and yet he left us writings filled not with complaints, but with clarity. Why? Because the Stoic doesn't announce the storm. He becomes the stillness inside it. When you face a setback, whether it's a failed business pitch, a personal loss, or a difficult coworker, the temptation is to talk, vent, explain. But here's the truth most people won't tell you. The more you talk about your wounds, the more they own you. Every retelling reinforces the emotion. Every complaint gives it roots. Talking becomes a loop. Stoicism teaches you to break that loop through presence and practice. This doesn't mean you should bottle everything up or pretend nothing's wrong. It means you should stop giving your pain more airtime than your strength. Take, for example, someone struggling through a brutal work deadline. The average person might spend more time talking about how unfair or exhausting it is than actually working through it. The Stoic flips that equation. They don't say, "I'm overwhelmed." They ask, "What's one step I can take right now?" They channel frustration into focus. Seneca once said, "It is not that we are given a short life, but that we waste much of it." One of the ways we waste it is by narrating our suffering instead of transforming it. Silence, in this case, is not suppression. It's spiritual discipline. It's conserving your energy for action, for improvement, for self-mastery. Even something as mundane as sitting in traffic becomes a test of philosophy. You could stew, swear, and scroll, or you could treat it like a pause the universe gave you. Time to breathe, reflect, listen to something that uplifts. No one can stop the traffic, but you can stop the inner chaos. This is what it means to have quiet strength. It's not the silence of weakness. It's the silence of someone who doesn't need to announce their endurance. Their focus becomes the proof. Their progress becomes the voice. When you stop talking about your challenge and start working through it, you change the narrative, not only for yourself, but for everyone watching. Because here's the part most people miss. People are watching. They're learning from how you move, especially in difficulty. Are you the person who crumbles or the one who becomes unshakable? Every obstacle is a chance to choose who you become. So here's your Stoic challenge. The next time life throws something hard your way, don't broadcast it. Don't let it define the room you enter. Let it refine the person you are in that room. Take a breath. Ground yourself. Do the work. Let your efforts speak where words would only echo fear. And as we continue, remember, every principle in this journey is a doorway. Behind it waits not just more knowledge, but more of you. Let's open the next one. 2. Don't reveal your secrets. Not every truth deserves an audience. Not every thought needs to be spoken aloud. In a world that praises openness and encourages constant sharing, the Stoics teach us something radically different, the quiet strength of restraint. They understood that there is power in what you choose not to reveal. Seneca once wrote, "If you want to keep a secret, keep it to yourself." At first glance, this might sound cynical, but he wasn't promoting paranoia or isolation. He was teaching protection. He knew that the deepest wounds often don't come from enemies. They come from misplaced trust, from the moments when we hand someone a piece of our soul only to have it used against us. Your inner world, your dreams, your fears, your regrets is sacred. And when you share it too freely, you place it in the hands of others who may not understand it, appreciate it, or respect it. Stoicism teaches us that self-mastery includes knowing when to speak and when to remain silent, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Picture this. You've started working on a personal goal. Maybe it's a new business, a creative pursuit, or a major life shift. You're excited. You tell your friends, your family, maybe even a few colleagues. And what happens? Suddenly, you're met with skepticism, unsolicited advice, even subtle mockery. And without realizing it, your momentum weakens. Their voices start to echo in your head, crowding out your own. But imagine if you had waited, protected that flame while it was still fragile. Let it grow in silence. Let your actions speak before your words ever did. That's the Stoic way. Move in silence. Let your work announce itself when it's strong enough to stand on its own. Discretion isn't the same as deception. It's not about hiding who you are. It's about choosing when to reveal yourself and to whom. It's about guarding your energy and preserving the integrity of your inner sanctuary, because not everyone deserves access to your vulnerability. Not every connection is built to hold the weight of your truth. When you practice the art of discretion, you build a stronger relationship with yourself. You begin to trust your own voice more than the noise around you. And you cultivate a rare kind of discipline, one that doesn't chase validation or seek applause, but finds peace in self-containment. Even in friendships, even in love, not everything must be spoken. There is a kind of sacredness in holding certain parts of yourself quietly. The most grounded people are often those who know more than they say, think deeper than they express, and carry themselves with a calm confidence that needs no explanation. So here's your Stoic challenge. The next time you feel the urge to reveal something, a plan, a problem, a private detail, pause. Ask yourself why. Is it coming from clarity or from a desire to be seen? Is it strengthening your path or exposing it too soon? Choose silence when it protects your peace. Speak only when your words carry purpose. The more you respect your inner world, the more others will learn to respect it too. Now let's continue, because the next lesson will show you how strength isn't just what you hold back, it's also in what you hold steady. 3. Don't talk about your achievements. We all want to feel seen. When we accomplish something meaningful, it's natural to want others to know, to celebrate with us, to affirm our effort. But the Stoics remind us of a different kind of strength, a quiet strength. One that does not announce itself, but leaves an impression that cannot be ignored. True success, they believed, doesn't need a spotlight. It becomes its own evidence. Epictetus put it simply, Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. That is, live in such a way that your values and accomplishments are obvious without ever needing to be spoken. A life well lived doesn't require narration. It becomes visible through your consistency, your conduct, your contribution. Imagine a master gardener who has spent years nurturing a once barren plot of land. The soil is now rich, the flowers bloom, the fruit is abundant. That gardener doesn't stand in the middle of the field shouting, "Look what I've done!" They don't have to. The beauty of the garden speaks for itself. In the same way, your dedication, discipline, and integrity will show without a single word of self-praise. The danger of broadcasting your success is subtle but real. When we constantly talk about what we've done, we create an attachment to recognition. We start to rely on applause, on approval, on the admiration of others to feel worthy. Over time, this turns us from creators into performers. Instead of doing good work because it's meaningful, we do it because we want to be seen doing it. In a world where social media rewards the loudest voices and the most polished achievements, the Stoic way is deeply countercultural, but also deeply freeing. Because when your satisfaction no longer depends on others noticing, you gain something rare, inner freedom. You can pursue mastery for its own sake. You can enjoy the process, not just the praise. And you can move from one goal to the next with focus and humility. Let's say you've hit a personal milestone, maybe a promotion, or you've finally launched a project you've worked on for years. The modern habit would be to post about it, to collect congratulations, to put the badge on display. But imagine instead you took a quiet moment, reflected on what it took to get there, honored your effort privately, and then kept going. That's not weakness. That's composure. That's strength guided by purpose rather than performance. And that's exactly what the Stoics admired. They didn't deny success. They just refused to let it become a trap. Because once you're hooked on recognition, you stop evolving. Humility keeps you open. It keeps you grounded. It protects you from the arrogance that blinds and the complacency that weakens. So here's your challenge. When you succeed, don't rush to speak. Let your growth reveal itself in how you carry yourself, in the quality of your actions, and in the impact you quietly have on the people around you. Let your life be the message. And as we move forward, remember, it's not just what you achieve, but who you become while achieving it that matters most. The next key will show you how to protect that inner transformation from the subtle influence of others. 4. The power of strategic silence. There's a rare kind of strength in being unreadable. In a world that rewards constant updates and self-promotion, the Stoic chooses silence, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. When you don't reveal your next move, you gain something others can't touch: freedom, focus, and control. This is the art of strategic silence. A Stoic doesn't broadcast where they're going. They arrive and let the results speak. It's tempting to share your plans. You might want encouragement, or a sense of accountability, or simply to feel heard. And yes, there are moments when sharing is right. But the Stoics warn us, too much talk about the future creates noise. It invites opinions, distractions, even resistance. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Don't announce it. Align with it. Live it." Every time you speak of your dreams too soon, you shift your energy outward. You place your intention in the hands of others, people who may doubt you, question you, or unknowingly water down your momentum. That's why the Stoic keeps their vision inward, protected, intact. Let's say you're building something, a side project, a personal transformation. A new habit. You start telling people. Some respond with support, others raise concerns. A few offer unhelpful advice. Suddenly you're not just pursuing your goal, you're managing their expectations. You're second-guessing your process. What once felt clear now feels complicated. But when you move in silence, the only voice that matters is your own. You protect your focus, you protect your drive, you build without the weight of performance. And something strange happens. You become more effective, more present, more resilient. Because you're not chasing approval, you're cultivating mastery. Another danger of oversharing is what psychologists call premature achievement. When you talk about a goal too much, your mind gets a taste of success before it's earned, and that illusion of progress can kill your hunger. You feel good for saying it instead of doing it. The Stoic knows better. They keep the hunger alive by keeping their plans to themselves. Picture someone training quietly for a marathon. No posts, no fanfare. Just morning after morning of effort. Then one day they cross the finish line, not to prove anything, but because they lived the discipline. That's the kind of power Stoicism cultivates. Quiet, steady, unshakable. This kind of discretion also builds self-reliance. You stop waiting for motivation from others. You stop needing applause to feel progress. You become your own source of energy. That's rare, and that's exactly why it's powerful. So here's your challenge. The next time you feel the urge to tell the world what you're working on, pause. Ask yourself, will this sharpen my focus or scatter it? Will it strengthen my resolve or weaken it with noise? Choose the path that keeps your power intact. Let your results speak. Let your character speak. Let your life speak. Because when you operate in silence, your success becomes impossible to ignore. And as we move into the next lesson, we'll explore how to respond to negativity, not with argument or defense, but with something even stronger. Stoic indifference. 5. Don't talk about others. There's a quiet kind of dignity in the person who refuses to speak poorly of others. In a world that thrives on gossip, fueled by social media and idle conversation, the Stoic stands apart, grounded, intentional, and above the noise. One of the most powerful things you can do for your peace of mind is to stop talking about other people. The Stoics understood that the energy we spend judging others is energy we lose for self-reflection and personal growth. Marcus Aurelius said it best: "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." It's a line that cuts through all the chatter. Don't speculate about who's right, who's wrong, who deserves praise or blame. Be the example. Let your life be your statement. When we gossip, even lightly, we train our minds to look outward instead of inward. We cultivate criticism over curiosity, judgment over understanding, and worst of all, we create division where connection is needed. The Stoic doesn't waste their breath on other people's flaws. They use that breath to strengthen their own character. Think of someone who spends their time talking about what others are doing wrong, their boss, their friends, some stranger online. Now think of someone who focuses instead on what they can improve, what they can learn, how they can serve. Which one seems more powerful? Which one feels more peaceful? Imagine a workplace, a home, a community where people practice this. No whispering behind closed doors, no subtle digs or passive comments. Just people minding their own growth, lifting each other up by example. That's not fantasy. That's what happens when enough individuals commit to a higher way of living. The truth is, gossip weakens the speaker more than the subject. It makes you dependent on comparison for your own sense of worth. And it distracts you from the one life you actually have power over, your own. Epictetus reminds us, when you are offended at someone's faults, turn to yourself and ask whether you have any of the same. Gossip is easy. Self-honesty is hard. That's why few choose it. But that's also why it's the way of the wise. So the next time you're tempted to join a conversation that picks someone else apart, pause. Ask yourself, does this make me better? Does it serve any purpose beyond momentary pleasure? Choose instead to elevate, redirect the conversation, or simply walk away. Your silence will say more than any opinion ever could. This is your challenge. Rise above the gossip. Let others talk. You walk. Focus on your path. Protect your peace. And by doing so, you become a presence others respect without needing to speak much at all. And as we move ahead, remember, the next lesson will reveal how your environment changes when you stop chasing validation and start honoring your inner code. Let's keep going. 6. Don't talk about your good deeds. There's something deeply noble about doing good and telling no one. In a world eager to broadcast every act of generosity, the Stoic walks a quieter path, not because they lack compassion, but because their goodness doesn't need an audience. The Stoics taught that true virtue is self-contained. It doesn't announce itself, it simply is. Seneca once wrote, "The reward for a good deed is to have done it." That single line carries centuries of wisdom. When your kindness comes from the heart, not from the hope of being praised, it carries a different weight. It becomes sacred because it is no longer about you. It is about the act itself, about the person you helped, and about the character you strengthen every time you give without needing recognition. Imagine a traveler walking through a desert, stumbling across a well placed by a stranger who never left their name. The water saves them. The well stands quiet. It asks for no thanks. That is the kind of presence Stoicism calls us to become, nourishing, steady, invisible in our service, but impactful in our touch. Of course, modern life tempts us to showcase our goodness. We live in a time where charity has hashtags, and even moments of silence can be edited into reels. But the more you share your virtue for validation, the more you dilute its essence. The applause may feel good for a moment, but it won't make you more virtuous. If anything, it distracts from the deeper reward, the inner transformation that comes when you do something kind and simply walk away. That doesn't mean you can't feel proud. It doesn't mean you should suppress the joy of helping someone. On the contrary, Stoicism encourages that joy, but it teaches you to keep it rooted inside, not scattered outward. Because once your motivation is external, you are no longer free. You become dependent on praise. And over time, you start choosing actions not because they are good, but because they are seen as good. Think about this. Have you ever helped someone quietly, paid for their meal, gave your time, offered support, and told no one? Do you remember how clean that feeling was? No agenda, no performance, just presence, just kindness. That is the feeling Stoicism teaches us to cultivate. Your character is not measured by what others know about you. It's shaped by what you do when no one is watching. And that kind of goodness builds something lasting. It strengthens your soul. It deepens your peace. It frees you from the cycle of needing to be seen to feel whole. So here's your Stoic challenge. The next time you do good, don't speak. Just act. Let the moment end without a post, a quote, or a recap. Let it exist purely in the memory of the person who received it and in the quiet pride that lives in you. Because the world doesn't need louder heroes, it needs deeper ones. And as we step into the next lesson, we'll explore how guarding your inner world, especially your vulnerabilities, builds a kind of strength that doesn't shout but never breaks. Let's keep going. 7. The Stoic Shield. We live in a culture that often celebrates vulnerability as courage, encouraging us to wear our struggles on our sleeves and speak openly about our wounds. But the Stoics urge us to be careful. Not everything inside you needs to be laid bare. Some parts of yourself deserve privacy, not exposure, especially your weaknesses. Seneca once said that a person who reveals their weaknesses to the world is like a city without walls, vulnerable, unguarded, easily invaded. The Stoic isn't ashamed of their limitations, but neither do they announce them. Instead, they observe, they strengthen, and they protect the parts of themselves still under construction. Let's be clear. Recognizing your flaws is important. We all have them. Impatience, insecurity, pride, fear. These are marks of being human. But there's a difference between acknowledging a flaw and broadcasting a weakness. A flaw is something you're working on. A weakness, when shared carelessly, becomes a tool others can use against you, intentionally or not. Imagine someone who admits they buckle under pressure. Now picture a work environment where deadlines are tight and responsibilities shift quickly. That confession, though honest, can easily be turned into an unspoken label, unreliable under stress. Now imagine instead that same person chooses silence. They know pressure is hard for them, so they quietly develop systems. They plan ahead, they train their focus, they build resilience in the background. No one needs to know, because their actions speak clearly. This is someone who holds their own. The Stoic embraces what I call the discipline of silent strength. They don't perform their struggles, they process them. They don't seek pity, they seek progress. Because they understand that the world can be kind, but it can also be careless. And not everyone deserves to see the softest parts of you. This doesn't mean closing yourself off from everyone. It means choosing your moments and your confidants with discernment. It means giving yourself space to grow without turning every scar into a story. You don't owe the world your rawness. You owe yourself your wholeness. And here's where the Stoic mindset becomes empowering. Every weakness is an opportunity in disguise. That oversensitivity, it could become compassion once it's managed. That impulsiveness, it could become clarity once it's disciplined. But this kind of alchemy only happens in silence, when you stop explaining and start evolving. So here's your challenge. Don't just name your weaknesses. Master them. Not by shouting them into the void, but by turning inward. Observe, reflect, strengthen. And when you return to the world, let people meet the result, not the process. Let them see the courage in your calm. Let them sense the work behind your stillness. Because the Stoic knows this simple truth. The strongest person in the room is often the one who says the least and reveals even less. And as we move forward, the next lesson will reveal how your environment can shift the moment you stop seeking approval and start living from principle. Let's keep going. 8. The unspoken dream. There are dreams you speak aloud, and then there are dreams too sacred to name, the ones that live in the quiet corners of your heart, not because you are afraid, but because you understand their fragility. The Stoics believed that these inner visions, when protected and nurtured in silence, grow stronger than if they were exposed too early to the noise of the world. It's tempting to share your aspirations, a new idea, a passion project, a bold vision for your life. You want others to know, to celebrate, maybe even to cheer you on. And yes, sharing with the right person at the right time can be powerful, but the Stoic perspective offers something deeper. It invites us to consider the strength of the unspoken, the fire that grows brighter when sheltered from the wind. Seneca warned, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." When we speak too soon about our dreams, we risk living more in the fantasy of what could be than in the discipline of what needs to be done. Talking can replace action. The applause we seek too early can replace the quiet satisfaction of perseverance. Think about an artist shaping their craft in solitude. Before the world sees a single painting, hours of quiet effort unfold behind closed doors. The same is true of a writer, an entrepreneur, a visionary. By keeping your dream private, you create a sacred space where it can mature, free from doubt, judgment, or comparison. And there's another reason to guard your dreams. They are often deeply personal, tied to your identity and your sense of purpose. When you share them too freely, you invite others to speak into something they do not fully understand. Their skepticism, their fears, their projections, even if unintentional, can cloud your clarity. A seed planted in shallow soil struggles to grow, but a dream nurtured in silence can take deep root. There's also the trap of performance. When we speak of our ambitions too early, we can become addicted to the approval of others. We start to shape our dream to impress, not to fulfill. The Stoic resists this. They stay anchored in their internal drive. They pursue not praise, but purpose. Let's bring this to life. Picture someone who quietly spends years preparing to launch a non-profit that serves struggling communities. No grand announcements, no public countdowns, just patient effort, quiet wins, late nights and early mornings. And when it finally launches, it's not just an idea, it's a living, breathing force. Or think of a musician who practices in private, slowly discovering their sound. When they finally step on stage, they are not chasing applause, they are sharing something already complete. So here's your Stoic challenge. When you feel the urge to share your dream, pause. Ask yourself, does this serve the dream or my ego? Will speaking this aloud bring clarity or create noise? Then choose silence when silence gives your dream room to grow. Remember, keeping a dream unspoken isn't about secrecy, it's about stewardship. You are not hiding it, you're protecting it. Trust the timing. Trust your process. Trust that when the world finally sees what you've built, they will know it was born from depth, not display. And as we prepare for the final lesson, we'll explore the heart of Stoic leadership. How to move with principle, not popularity, and become the kind of person others follow without needing to be asked. Let's finish strong. 9. The sanctuary of solitude. There's a kind of strength that doesn't need to be loud, a kind of peace that isn't found in company but in stillness. In this final lesson, we turn inward into the sanctuary of solitude. Not the loneliness that leaves us empty, but the solitude that fills us up. The Stoics didn't just tolerate solitude, they revered it. They believed it was a sacred space where the deepest form of clarity and power could be found, not from the noise around us, but from the silence within us. In a world that constantly tells you to stay connected, to scroll, to post, to talk, solitude can feel like rebellion. We're taught to fear being alone, as if silence means something is missing. But the Stoics saw it differently. They knew that the moments you spend with yourself, truly with yourself, are the moments that shape who you are. Seneca once said, "Loneliness is the poverty of self. Solitude is the richness of self." That richness is not in retreat from the world, but in returning to yourself. When you step away from distraction, from conversations, from the endless demand for attention, you step into a place where real transformation happens. You begin to notice the stories you've been telling yourself. You face your fears without flinching. You hear your own voice, clear and unfiltered. And in that space, you build something few people have: inner steadiness. a compass that doesn't shake when the world around you does. So why keep your solitude sacred? Why not turn it into something you post about, talk about, or invite others into? Because not everyone understands it. Solitude, to the untrained eye, can look like isolation or even weakness, but for the Stoic, it is the practice of presence, and when shared carelessly, that presence can be interrupted, the sacredness diluted, the meaning misunderstood. There are 3 reasons the Stoics guarded their solitude. First, it protects your inner sanctuary. When you treat your solitude like a sacred ritual, you give yourself the space to grow in private. You allow yourself to process without pressure, to explore without explaining. And that safety creates the conditions for depth, for self-awareness, and for quiet breakthroughs. Second, it helps you avoid misinterpretation. In a world obsessed with productivity and validation, solitude can seem strange. But when you keep it to yourself, you don't give others the chance to question it, label it, or distract you from it. You simply return to your space again and again and let the silence do its work. And third, it builds self-reliance. Solitude teaches you how to rely on your own thoughts for guidance, your own reflection for answers, and your own spirit for strength. When you share these moments too easily, you risk anchoring your peace in the presence of others. But when you keep them sacred, your strength becomes internal, enduring, and unshakable. Let's bring this into real life. Maybe you meditate each morning or journal your thoughts in the quiet hours before the world wakes up. You don't need to talk about it. That time is yours. Maybe you walk in nature without your phone, letting your mind wander and reset. That moment doesn't need to be explained, it just needs to be felt. Or maybe you sit in silence after a hard day, letting your breath guide you back to center. No one needs to know. That's the point. So here's your final Stoic challenge. Make space for solitude. Protect it like you would protect something sacred. Whether it's 10 minutes of stillness, an afternoon of reflection, or a quiet weekend away, let that time be yours, unspoken, undisturbed. Let it be the soil where your strength grows and the ground where your clarity stands. Because solitude is not emptiness, it's fullness without noise. And the person who learns to be at peace in their own company becomes unshakable, not because they escape the world, but because they've mastered the part of themselves the world cannot touch. This is the end of the lesson, but not the end of the journey. Every quiet moment you choose from here on becomes part of something greater, the kind of strength no one can give you and no one can take away. D-Day. Thank you for walking this path of stillness, clarity, and strength. True wisdom isn't found in applause or comparison, but in the quiet mastery of your own mind and the steady alignment with your values. These 9 Stoic keys are not just ideas, they are invitations to live deeper, lead with purpose, and rise with grace. If today's journey spoke to something in you, feel free to subscribe and stay connected. Share your thoughts below with the words, "Stay grounded." And remember, the next lesson will take this wisdom even further. Until then, keep walking with intention and let your silence speak volumes.